Welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about the densities that make up our matrix. So in the previous video, we talked about the Spiderweb concept so that we could understand that everything within our realm is made of a vibration, and each vibration is layered on top of itself to make a density. Now, each density is tightly compacted with other densities on top of each other. So in this video, I'm going to teach you more about how these densities function within the matrix and their how they operate and how it's going to actually help you understand how to move through these densities and to help you move through certain phases of your life with thinking about this concept. All right, so each density has three parts. The first is that each density has its own vibrational range, okay? And because they're stacked on top of each other, one range is going to be higher or lower than another, okay? So you may come in, say for example, on a lower density range, depending on your family and the generational curses that you guys have to work through and the vibrational resonance of your mother at the time of birth. That is the vibrational density in which you come into the world. And as you grow and as you elevate yourself in your life, no matter what circumstances you go through, as you get into your first awakening, you elevate out of that density into the next. Okay? And after that awakening, you are constantly learning about this new density until you come to your first ascension. That is going to level you out of that next density. After your first ascension, you tend to rapidly move through densities very quickly and not needing to have all of these awakenings, but you might have different energetic shifts in your vessel and in your spiritual body in order to be able to shift into another density. Okay, so what do we learn on this part that every density has? Number one, we learn that each density has its own vibrational range. That means that you can start at a lower vibrational density on one density. You can start at a lower vibration and acclimate to a higher vibration. When you hit that vibrational glass ceiling, you then enter in at a different density, but at its lowest vibration. And I hope that makes sense. And an easier way to understand this is when you go to elementary school and then you get to 5th grade, you are one of the oldest students in the school. Yes? And then when you go to middle school, you are now in the 6th grade, but you are one of the youngest students in the school. And then when you get to 8th grade in middle school and then you go to 9th grade in high school, you are now the lowest student again. When you graduate high school, the 12th grade, when you're a senior, you then come in at a college freshman, okay? So each time that you elevate in different parts of your life, you're always gonna go from being the best, the top vibration of big fish in a small pond to being a small fish in a huge as fuck pond until you get bigger. Does that make sense? Okay, I hope that this really is resonating with you guys. So now, the second thing that every single density has is multiple layers of these web-like concepts, okay? Every single being on this density has a web all their own. And as you move throughout the matrix, all of you are interacting with each other, as well as every single thought form or social construct that has a lot of energy circulating within it, a lot of people circulating within that paradigm, those vibrational spider webs are also around and around certain groups of people and around other people, okay? And depending on how many of these groups you identify with, for example, I am a Black woman, so I'm Black, so I'm in the Black, right? I'm in the Black web, and then I'm also a woman, so now I'm in a web with every woman that is on earth. I am also a citizen of the United States. So now I am also in a web with all citizens of the United States and a certain ideology of what that nationalism is like, okay? And then I also fit into a minority. So not including just being Black, but also being a minority. There are so many other minorities, but we all fit into that certain paradigm, okay? That paradigm niches down to being African American, okay? Or being Black. As we niche down, for example, I'm a spiritualist, I'm a medium. So all of those things niche me down, and I'm a part of a lot of different webs, right? The best thing about being a part of these other groups is as you elevate vibrationally, you allow everyone in that particular group to have the availability to rise just like you. And most of you are inspired to rise because you've seen someone in a particular social group around you who was in the same resonated vibration, or else they wouldn't have been in your existence, regardless if they're dead or alive, right? You were inspired by them to better yourself or to go on a specific path. And that path has led you to elevate yourself into something this person could never have imagined, even you being alive, and then also creating what you wanted to create just by something that you may have heard or said or read that they put out into the ether that you were vibrationally in alignment with, because they were a part of that spider web and their knowledge trickled throughout that spider web. And no matter how much they were able to elevate vibrationally out of that density, their residue is still in the density. It is still circulating. That's the reason why we can see people like Bob Proctor, right? Still putting out his own information, even though he's been dead maybe for about a year now. Or even Manly P. Hall, who's been gone for almost 100 years. And this guy is one of the main people giving out major esoteric information, going even further back when we're talking about alchemy. All these other alchemists who were teaching people how to elevate themselves. They have become myths. They were a man, the myth, the legend. Some of them are gods. Some of them we don't even remember or even think that they ever truly existed. Yet the thought form of who they were and the knowledge that was given from this ideology, from this consciousness, is still circulating today, still affecting millions, if not billions of people, intentionally, unintentionally, knowing or unknowingly. So when we're talking about this type of stuff, we want to understand that everything has a grid, okay? Including you and every individual on that density, including the social constructs and structures, okay? Now, it should be included that every grid has its own vibrational frequency range. When you get into a certain grids are low vibrational. So if you elevate past the vibration of a particular grid, you will pull away from it. For example, what it means to be a wife based on the old standards of maybe like the 1920s to 1950s, right? A lot of women are trained in that ideology growing up. And once they elevate to a certain amount of healthy mentality, self-care, love, and boundaries for themselves, they step out of what that meant for them, because that thing does not elevate with their vibration. It actively constructs her to belittle and shrink herself for someone else's benefit. Do you understand? So now this person is able to rise out of that bondage and that construct in order to know who they are as a being, not just as a woman who is capable of making another human. Does that make sense? Okay, so now we're doing number 3. So number 3 is going to be information. Every density has a range of information, and that information is incredibly vast. And depending on what your end goal is within that density, you're going to be aligned with as much information as possible that aligns with your end goal, so that you can get as much information embedded in your mind, in the wisdom, and in your experiences, so that you can make it through, understand every lesson that you have made in the process of getting from point A to point B at the end of the density and elevating to the next one, that you can take that information and build upon it in the next density when you get that information. Now, the understanding as well comes in packed with that. There's only so much understanding, and there is always more information than the understanding that can digest all of the information that's coming at you. And it's important that we understand this. There's certain things that are baked into certain belief systems and modalities. And so we're going to understand these things, but they may not press in the way that we think that we need them to. Sometimes we just press in enough to understand, but as we grow, that thing unravels practically and shows us exactly how it relates to us, how we can use it for our elevation. And sometimes that information just sits with us long enough to tell somebody else. For example, I received a download one day that was telling me that a woman, she was coming toward me and she had a lot of information, and this woman was going to have on a certain color, and I was to tell her a specific thing. I was supposed to say a specific line, a specific amount of information that was for her. I had channeled it from source, and it was supposed to be spoken to her. And when I spoke these words to her, she was going to tell me information that she had received for me, but she didn't know that it was me. That me speaking to her would be the initiator. So me being able to do that, now I have given her the information that I was giving to me so I can give it to her, right? And then now I have received what she had for me, okay? Now, I don't remember what that information is right here at this point. Like, I would really have to go through some journals to figure it out, because it really wasn't for me. It was for her. And the information that she had for me was only sat in her mind long enough to give it to me verbatim. So these are the kind of things that I want you guys to think about, okay? Is that some of these things that we learn are just enough to point certain people that run into us that are on our vibrational frequency in the right direction. For example, I had someone today comment on one of my posts and ask me, what are some good recommendations if they want to learn more about angel numbers? And I told them, I was like, the best way to look into angel numbers is to seek in numerology. You can Google angel numbers, but there's only so much information about that specific angel number. Sometimes there is no information. But if you understand numerology, you can break down each number. You can understand the numerology and how it moves within certain environments. And what does that mean, even if you can't find a cohesive spiritual meaning? And so even though I'm not a person who's deep into numerology, there was a phase of my life where I really was deep into numerology. So I had enough information to steer this person in the right direction. But that's all they need from me, is that push to say, it's okay, go this way and check it out. And if that resonates with you, great, keep following that. Because I may not follow you down that path, but I could open the door, right? So basically we're receiving a lot of information in this third phase, okay? So what I want you to understand is that there are some things in certain densities or certain parts of your life that you'll take a deep dive on, and there are some things that will be shallow, and that's okay. It's okay to dive into some things shallow and some things deeper, because not everything is meant to be deep in your life. Some things are just enough to get you by, to get you to that next thing. But you don't necessarily need to be a pro at astrology if your lifestyle and everything else is based in a different direction, right? Why would you need to know all of this information if you're never going to use it? That's a waste of time. But to know enough, a good overview, is enough to move you in the right direction. And everybody is going to learn and keep learning different things on different levels. And the more that stuff becomes relevant, the more you will dive into it. The initial key, the initial introduction to certain things, the initial fall into and come out of, eventually you will get deeper and deeper and deeper into something through its occasional revolvence around this thing. But there are some things where you'll dive deep until you can't go deeper anymore and you'll move on. But you can always come back to this deep thing. You may rely on this deeper thing, but just knowing that you don't have to stay there. You don't have to be stuck diving. You can get up and you can go and you can come back. And I give this a good example as the book The Alchemist, which I encourage all of you to read. If you have a script, you can read that on there, or you can get it on Audible. I suggest you guys get like the actual physical book, because it's one of those things that you want to read over and over and over again. Every time you read it, you will learn something new. But what it does is it's a fictional story that teaches you how alchemy looks inside of a person's life, actively creating alchemical gold within a person as they elevate, cyclically going through lessons of their life over and over again. They accrue a certain amount of knowledge, and then they're able to elevate to different densities within their paradigm, okay, and shift into different timelines. Although they are looking for a goal, they don't understand that the end goal requires them to shift consistently and almost sporadically, but it's divinely led. So nothing is left to chance. So I hope that this made sense to you guys. I don't want to keep going because I can go off on a tangent forever. So I hope that this made sense. If you guys have any questions, you can always email me or go into the group and send and put out a message for the group, and I'll be quick to get back to you. I love you so much. I hope that this information sits in you, incubates, and becomes part of your infinite reflection and fractal understanding and unfolding. I love you so much. As above, so below, as within, so without. I hope that you guys have an amazing day, and I will see you on the next one. Bye.